And the theme for this month's talks is radical self-care. And today's topic, how to be in your body. So there we go. What a great lead-in from standing in the light. If you recall, last month our theme was, what do I believe? And perhaps as a result of that, you first of all took some time to consider that question. What do I believe and why? Then, in that time of consideration, perhaps you've found some things that you would like to change. Undoubtedly, as you considered the question, what do I believe, you found things that you have already changed. And that as you've done that, your spiritual path has developed and unfolded more clearly and more confidently. So this month, I've chosen to talk about what Lisa Rankin, medical doctor, calls radical self-care. And so that's our theme for the month. And today's talk, in keeping with that, is how to be in your body. This is the book. You'll recall I mentioned her a few weeks back because there was an article about her in the August Science of Mind magazine. Well, there's a lot more to it, as you can see. And as we have researched her and her teachings, find that she's all over everywhere. And many of you knew about her some time back. I'm the newbie on the block, learning about her and very impressed with what I'm hearing and what I'm reading. So Martha Graham, who was a noted professional dancer, choreographer, and teacher in the 20th century, once said, "The body says what words cannot." And though her reference was in relationship to how the body expresses a movement that we often cannot find words for, she was a living legacy in the performance and teaching of body movement that was previously considered to be impossible or dangerous or unattainable. She also reminded us that practice is a means of inviting the perfection desired. Practice is a means of providing the perfection desired. Ooh, where have you heard that before? Who have you heard that from before? Lisa Rankin is a mind-body medicine physician. Mind-body medicine physician. She's passionate about what makes people healthy. Isn't that a bright light from medicine? Passionate about what makes people healthy and what predisposes them to illness. She studies and practices how doctors can better care for their patients and how patients can better care for themselves. Like those two things go together. How doctors can better care for patients and how the patients can better care for themselves. Her latest book, Mind Over Medicine, which I just showed you, is a down-to-earth compendium of medical, physical, emotional, and spiritual support of healthy living. The 4 posts that, for those of you who attended some of the sessions up in at Tutu's house last year, I did a series of workshops on those 4 posts. Physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. It all goes together to make up the integral being. And true to her own realizations, Dr. Rankin left a medical practice in order to bring her knowledge, her experiences, and her passion to as many people who are willing to be active partners in their own health. I think you all know how exciting I find this kind of discovery. To me, it's further proof that science and spirituality can and must exist in partnership for the ongoing evolution of humanity. In the book, How to Change Your Life, this is one of the classics in our teaching, How to Change Your Life, from the Library of Ernest Holmes, his opening words with regard to the basic ideas of the science of mind are as follows. The first thing we must realize is that we can achieve vibrant health right now through right thinking. New thought? New discovery? I don't think so. Here's a quote from Socrates, who lived from 470 to 399 BCE, which is before the Common Era. There is no illness of the body apart from the mind. And listen to these words from the Dhammapada, a collection of sayings of the Buddha in verse form, and one of the most widely read and best known Buddhist scriptures. Here's the quote. What we are today comes from our thoughts of yesterday. Our present thoughts build our life of tomorrow. Our life is the creation of our mind. The Buddha, as you may recall, lived between the 6th and the 4th century BCE, before the Common Era. And then if you look at the various ages and eras of modern history, which is categorized as from the 1500s forward, you may note that there was heavy emphasis on the discovery and the development of what is categorized as scientific. If you're a student of history, you also know that emphasis was largely as a result of the backlash or the breaking away of what was often categorized as the oppression of religion over humanity. Obviously, much of that work and discovery has brought to some of us the plethora of conveniences, of shortcuts, and vast improvements in our lifestyles. And all of this comes from the same magnificent mind of the human, who can also develop and maintain vibrant health and joyous living. So where did we, the human race, go wrong? What happened to our individual realization of our own powers of generation and regeneration? Well, one might say, we got lazy. With all the modern conveniences and all the glitzy alternatives, we just decided to let somebody else do it for us. And in the process, we adopted that same belief, consciously or unconsciously, to let someone else be responsible for our physical and mental health as well. So here's what Dr. Rankin suggests as redefining health, which I'll talk more about through this month. She says, the body is designed to repair itself. Nurturing care and the relaxation response set the stage for that. You remember the relaxation response? That came to great circulation and usage in the 1970s and 80s, the relaxation response. That was on the heels of the appearance of Deepak Chopra as a medical person who was also a metaphysician. Dr. Rankin said she found that asking patients 2 questions, what she called mother lode questions, provided great insight. The first question was, what do you think might lie at the root of your illness? And the second question, what does your body need in order to heal? Now, to you practiced religious scientists, you know that's the tip of the iceberg, because the cause is always in mind. And it takes practice, first of all, to believe that, and it takes practice to perform that healing in mind. And as practiced religious scientists, you also know that the cause is always not physical. Now, please note, I did not say not always physical. I said always not physical. The cause is always not physical, but a belief, an old pattern, an outdated idea yearning to be released, dissipated, healed. So as Dr. Rankin has discovered, the illness is your body yelling. Actually, she used the word screaming. Actually, the illness is your body screaming for you to make life changes. She doesn't exclude any illnesses from this formula. And when you read her book, you'll discover that. You'll also find that she uses the words spontaneous remission on a regular basis. So does she eliminate doctors, medicine, health insurance, medication, surgery, therapy from the face of the planet? No. What she does, at least for starters, is to educate all of the above, doctors, nurses, and the rest of the medical persuasions, insurance companies, research scientists, pharmacologists, physical therapists, to ask those two questions of patients. For starters, what do you think might lie at the root of your illness? And what does your body need in order to heal? But you know, I know, and Dr. Rankin knows, that this revolution, what we might call the radical self-care revolution, will rise from the individual minds of each of us who no longer give away our precious lives to unknown people, processes, or producers. That we become active and knowing partners in identifying the cause and the solution to our illnesses. What Dr. Holmes, Louise Hay, and countless others now call dis-ease. A lack of ease. You see, that's removing it from a whole genre that we get so caught up in that we lose our way into a word that says, this isn't right. Dis-ease. I am not at ease. My body is not at ease. And I can fix that. So it's all about mind over medicine. First the mind, and then if necessary to right the ship, so to speak, the medicine in the interim, which provides an opening for us to go to cause and heal. And this is something that religious science has always embraced, that the use of these things, which after all are divine by means of the hands that have created them, whether it's medicine, therapy, surgery, whatever, what's behind the minds that have created and produced that is as divine as what I'm talking about here when we work in our own behalf. The difference, though, the difference is that we are fully participative in our desired outcome. That may be simply the relief of pain. That may be the total elimination of all symptoms and what they provide. That may be a return to vibrant good health. Your call. And then whatever you are using from the medical persuasion in support of that must support it. Must support it. In Lisa's chapter on radical self-care, she lists 6 treatments that foster self-healing. I'll list them for you and strongly recommend that you get the book and read the details on each one. First of all, change your diet. Secondly, develop and experience a deepening of spirituality. Third, feeling love, joy, happiness, expecting it, accepting it. Releasing repressed emotions. Oh, this is big. Releasing suppressed emotions. Number 5 is taking herbs and or vitamins. And number 6 is using intuition. And now, I've listed those in the order in which she did. However, for my own use, I put experiencing a deepening of spirituality first, to remind me that's my starting point. I put releasing repressed emotions second, because what I find most of all in working with the other people, as well as myself, is so often that's at the root of whatever is expressing as dis-ease. So begin to see how that word connects. It's really cool. And then I put using intuition as number 3, because it's so important for us to recognize that when we do our affirmations and our prayer work, our spiritual mind treatment, that's our way of communing with God. Our intuition is God's way of communing with us. Listen to your intuition. Come to trust your intuition. Work at expanding your intuition, because everybody has it until we repress it, and when we repress it, then we don't believe it anymore. We think it's a wild hair. And maybe it's developed into that, so there may be some honing to reestablish the magnificence of intuition. I also want you to know that I started at the end of her book studying the solutions that she has tested, tried, and had success with. First with herself, because you'll read in the book her own self-healing experience. And now with an ever-growing segment of the population that she has worked with in a variety of different ways. See, I've learned from my own mistakes. Years ago, when Carolyn Mai's book, Why People Don't Heal and How They Can, first came out, I made the mistake of reading the first part first, Why People Don't Heal. And as a result, I put the book down. And I didn't pick it up for 10 years because it was so depressing. Why people don't heal. And there was example after example after example. Who needs it? It wasn't until I heard her speak at one of our CSL conferences that I realized the second half of the book was what I was looking to learn, how people can. So Dr. Rankin is the beneficiary of my lesson there. So going back to Ernie's book on how to change your life and his opening words with regard to the basic ideas of the science of mind, the first thing we must realize is that we can achieve vibrant health right now through right thinking. In considering the creation of vibrant health by right thinking, he goes on to say that through universal law, the body is built and maintained. It never sleeps, meaning universal law and its eminent wisdom never sleeps. But like everything else in our lives by divine appointment, we have the power to choose. including interrupting the marvels of a universal law that designed the kidneys, the digestive system, the eyes, the beating of the heart, etc., etc., etc. And we do interrupt those marvels. Maybe not knowingly, maybe not intentionally. Maybe we did get lazy with all the modern conveniences and all the glitzy alternatives. Maybe we did just decide to let somebody else do it for us. Doesn't really matter how or why. What matters is that now that we know better, we do better. In fact, some of us came to this island for that very reason. Some who were born here have discovered that as well. We do have alternatives here. Alternatives in diet, alternatives in contemplation, alternatives to integrating interaction with people of like mind. And we always have the opportunity to study, to share, and to test the alternatives to that external lifestyle that never takes the blame when we go wrong. You see, all of what I've been talking about that we have given, in some instances, our lives, but certainly portions of our lives over to, is external. And it never takes the blame when we go wrong. Dr. Holmes reminds us that we can be more healthy, we can be more prosperous, and we can advance our own well-being in many, many ways by deciding what we desire to be or to do, and then giving the matter that much conscious attention that it becomes a habitual thought pattern. Then the law of mind will retain it or maintain it for us, since the law of mind obeys conscious direction. What a 1-2 punch that is. And so it is.
And so it is. Well, let's sing our, what's it?
Loving kindness.
Yes, let's sing Loving Kindness.